With last week ending off on Regulus showing up, we were bound to get something of interest, and in terms of narrative content, this might be my favorite episode so far. Stay tuned because there might be something more about Regulus than you might have noticed. We pick up immediately where we left off as Regulus holds Amelia in his arms. The narration in this part of the novel pretty much roasts him, saying he leaves a middling impression, a man of medium height, medium build, and unnoteworthy looks. ReZero basically said he has no aura. Regulus begins to start yapping, and Subaru makes the biggest mistake one can make when dealing with this guy. He interrupts his train of thought. This causes Regulus to fly off the handle and begin to talk about courtesy. He mentions exchanging names and how rude it is that Subaru has yet to do so, which immediately made me think of what I had spoken about in the episode 1 video, with Garf not giving up his name to the kids. Giving up your name, or exchanging names, is such a courtesy in this world that even the Sin Archbishops will engage in it a lot. Regulus begins to primarily yap about his own rights and autonomy. As he complains about his rights, Sirius lashes out at him. There were signs of it before, but this is proof in itself that the archbishops don't really have any sense of cohesion. They aren't your bog-standard terrorist group, all having their own goals unified by a potential single cause. This causes Sirius and Regulus to start arguing, as she is not amused by his presence here and him saving Amelia. Regulus' dialogue really highlights how he doesn't really see people, but as property or commodities. This is something we can expand on shortly, but I just wanted to pop that into your mind for the future. While they undergo their exchange, Subaru is too afraid to even move until Betty calls his name. This was a particularly sweet moment in the novel as well, the narration stating, his precious partner gave him the courage to defy his fear, to stand and face the twin natural disasters. This is something that I particularly love about the ED for this core, with the ending of it showing everyone pushing Subaru to keep going, and this is going to be an underlying theme throughout this arc. Whenever the Subaru of old would waver, or crumble under the pressure of doing it all by himself, there will be people and connections he has formed to pick him back up. Arc 5 is really just a fantastic payoff for Arc 4. Subaru reassures Luzbel that he will save Tina before charging in, whipping Regulus by the neck, and having Betty drop a Shamrock on Regulus. He clears the Shamrock with ease, it being completely ineffective, and as Subaru senses impending death, the duo unleashes one of the 3 new spells they have developed, EMM. Regulus can't actually touch Subaru, the spell acting as a magic field that cuts a being off from the world, protecting Subaru from one hit. There is a small cut here that makes Subaru lose even more aura points, but that's alright, as then he would unleash Invisible Providence. The blowback comes quickly as he falls to his knees once again. The narration described the feeling of using Invisible Providence as a corruption of his soul, something we can put a pin in for now. Regulus continues to yap, talking about being due a wife that he could cherish, and this is when I would like to draw extreme parallels between Subaru and Regulus because I find these two to be quite an interesting protag and antag foil. The Subaru from Arcs 1 and 4 is a much different person than the one we're seeing now. This is why I think Regulus is his prime antagonist for the arc, and also why I believe that Arc 5 serves as a fantastic benchmark arc for him. It shows us how far he's come. You see, Regulus is a far more corrupted and twisted version of the Subaru that once was. Arc 1 through 3 Subaru had massive issues of understanding and respecting people's autonomy. He would call people NPCs, in his mind they were quest givers that followed lines of code, and in Arc 3 he would continually break through Amelia's boundaries for his own self-serving attitude, exploding at her about how she had a greater debt to him than she could ever repay, talking about being owed. Which was especially fitting that Petaljuice was his antagonist for Arc 3 because he also mirrored a lot of that obsessive love and obligation that Subaru felt. And now with that in mind, think about the things that Regulus was saying about Amelia, about how he's due a wife. There is a clear and direct parallel to the Subaru of old, including Arc 4 Subaru, who would break down while battling with Roswaal as he realizes that he was second to Roswaal in underestimating her, in not respecting her wishes, and thinking that he can just do everything for her. Regulus also goes on to comment about how strong women are so difficult to deal with, about how he doesn't even know Amelia's name, and the only thing he likes about her is her face. This is completely in line with Subaru's behavior of old. Subaru was lashing out and thinking he could do better than all of these women that are drastically stronger than him. He chased after Amelia endlessly in Arc 1 despite not knowing her name, and all he was attracted to was how she looked. Perhaps a video on how Subaru and Regulus foil each other later in this arc. For all these reasons and more, like how Subaru debuts EMM only to find out that Regulus has a 24/7 EMM, Subaru and Regulus are really interesting foils for each other and make a super interesting twisted relationship, as Subaru faces what he could have been had he gone down a much darker path in this world, telling Regulus to just die, as him and Betty leap towards him to unleash their second spell, but before they can, Sirius reminds us that she's still here. She begins to ramble about how she has found him, and due to the use of Invisible Providence, Sirius has become convinced that Petaljuice lies within Subaru, as if he is one of the fingers, and she has found her husband. Regulus and Sirius argue about each other's relative insanity, as Sirius begins to describe a completely one-sided relationship, and I almost can't help but draw some parallels to the way Sirius acts and the way Rem was acting before she got. Rem's love for Subaru wasn't as one-sided, but she did take things to an extreme, being mad about people even smelling Subaru. Sirius yelling how she won't hold back is what really made me think of this connection. The clock strikes noon, and Regulus announces that he has nothing left to do here anymore. Subaru tries to stop him, but Regulus kicks the top of a rock and completely blows Subaru's leg off. Of course, due to Sirius' soul washing, the entire crowd suffers the same wound as the consciousness fades from Subaru's eyes. Betty tries her best to save him, tears rolling down her cheeks, and assumedly, Subaru dies. But then he wakes up. Before we get into our next scenes, though, I want to touch on a couple of things. First, just what exactly is Regulus' authority? If you have any theories, please leave them in the comments below. Second, there was a pervading question from the last episode about Sirius and Reinhard. Why doesn't Reinhard just take the unconscious Sirius and take her away? Firstly, there was some cut dialogue about Reinhard also being affected by her authority. It's unsure if he was being real or if he was just, downplaying himself per usual, but there is a chance that Reinhard would eventually lose himself to Sirius' soul washing. Second, there is nothing indicating that Sirius being dragged away turns off her authority. In the light novel, it's described as an ability that affects the very soul. It's not as simple as magic, hence why Betty said Shamok wouldn't work. The LN also describes the power as being effective as long as you know Sirius exists, so there is nothing implying that dragging her away would solve it. Of course, these things should have been more clear in the anime. There's also only so much time to communicate the plan with Reinhard, as Subaru has to get to the square, convince Ratchins to fire the flare, wait for Reinhard to get there, and then tell him the information before he gets soul-washed. And usually by the time Reinhard gets there, he is soul-washed. We also don't know how much Subaru can tell Reinhard before the return by death taboo activates. Remember, it's not a science on how it activates, it's based on the fickle whims of one girl. Subaru's current character is in a state of not using his life as a tool to gamble. Rather than throwing away his life to experiment with minor tuning, he would rather do what he thinks has the best option of working and securing lives in this very moment, and experimenting with Sirius' authority's distance is probably not the best option for him. Last video I spoke about the meaning of the name Sirius. Well, Regulus is no exception. Regulus is the brightest star in the constellation Leo, rising at about 3 AM at the time of recording. Regulus has a couple of meanings: Little King in Latin, and Heart of the Lion in Arabic. It serves as the beating heart of its own constellation. In Greek mythology, Leo the lion would capture women and take them into its cave, killing the people that came to save the damsels in distress, a fitting direction considering he has now captured Amelia. We finally get to see what Otto's up to, and he's enjoying his time at his sweet shop, as, Subaru gets his leg blown off, and overhears the city guard telling someone that this is no place to be playing. We quickly realize that this is no ordinary child, as Leibotin Kaitos grabs the guard's skull and smashes it. If greed and wrath weren't enough, gluttony makes its debut in front of the not-so-powerful Otto. Novel readers or people who watch my cut content videos, however, may know that he isn't as defenseless as he seems. We see what Garf and Mimi have been up to as the Sin Archbishops slowly spread throughout the city. Garf's mom knew exactly what tea leaves he liked for some reason, and he just couldn't believe his eyes. He wants to leave, but Mimi and the boy don't want him to, as Garfield's body feels like it's being torn asunder, seeing his mom act like nothing has happened. He tries to swiftly leave again, but then the father of the household returns. A tiger was strong. Nothing ever shook a tiger, so what part of Garf was a tiger? He drags Mimi out of the house, as more images of Elsa bombard his mind. The man rushes after them, and we don't learn his name in the anime, so cut content it is. Garf confronts him, asking if Lyra is her real name, and we learn that he found her with no memories 15 years ago. Given this happens immediately after we see Gluttony enter the scene, I think there's a very clear connection to be drawn here. It's very possible that Garf's mom is a victim of gluttony. Despite it all, Garf would tell him that he has no relationship with his wife. And at that moment, the torrent in his chest faded, and he was left instead with a cavernous loss. Garf did not want to cause a divide in the family life for his own personal satisfaction. Who would he be to just show up and put that on them? There's almost something to be said about how Garf is like a pseudo-gluttony victim right now, refusing to give up his own name, offering an alias instead, and now even the memories that defined so much of his existence are back to haunt him, yet nobody knows the truth. Welcome to the outside world, Garfield Tinsel. After crying his heart out and wondering what he looks like right now, the sun rises, and Garf and Mimi eat the sweets from his mom, but not everything is as it appears. As the broadcast from Capella begins. Before we get into that, however, we cut back to what Subaru is up to in the field hospital, alongside Alan Ferris. The room is full of injured people, and as a result, Betty is in a deep sleep, having used the last of her mana to save everyone, powering down to preserve what is left. In the novels, this is when Subaru begins to pressure himself, his first thoughts being one of reverting to his previous states, and Ferris stops him. It doesn't always have to be 0 to 100 with him. Subaru is someone who has always struggled with the concept of relying on others, always wanting to go it alone, and this small scene displays one of my favorite aspects of ReZero, which is the depiction of mental health and relapse. It would be easy for the story to just have Subaru be fixed and keep going, but it keeps referencing his old behavior and how it requires a conscious effort to change it. We see this reflected in how Subaru immediately tries to solve Sirius on his own. A lot of people in my comments said that this was stupid, and yeah, it was. The point being, he needs to rely on the people that love him. There is one cut here, but it's not that big of a deal, and we'll just touch on it in the cut content section because why not? We cut to the Witch Cult Disaster Response HQ, stowed away inside of the Muse Company building because Kiritaka is one of the Council of 10, one of the most powerful people in the city. Anastasia informs Subaru why they are located here. The 4 control towers of Priscilla have been seized by the Witch Cult, and the city can be submerged at any moment. The Witch Cult had made their demands clear over the announcement meteor. What they are looking for are the witch's bones. This city was used to drown a witch, but no more details are known beyond that, and only the Council of 10 would know. The person speaking over the radio was none other than the Sin Archbishop of Lust, Capella Emerata Lagunica. Finally, the episode cuts back to Garfield as his mom runs out in a panic, looking for her children who went to go out and play, asking if he can help. He swallows his prior feelings and tells his mother he will do what he can to save them all. This episode introduced a lot of cool elements, more about Regulus and his power, great characterization for a lot of our cast, and the great mystery of the witch's bones. If you have any theories about why they are here for the remains, please leave them in the comments. Overall, a good episode that feathers the brakes a little bit to start putting together some building blocks for the oncoming conflict. This week, in terms of cut content, we're not actually dealing with much. The episode has a lot of rearrangements, so it's possible that things were cut, but we won't really know for sure until episode 4. What I can say is that there is a bit of Krush content. In the novels, while Subaru, Ferris, and Al are talking in the field hospital, Krush comes in when she hears about Subaru being awake, and then we get some exposition about the takeover of the control towers. However, I think most of that was replaced later in the episode anyway, so not really that big of a deal. The rest were just minor cuts here and there. In the novels, Subaru actually gets to land a normal punch on Regulus' face before using Invisible Providence because the punch left him exposed for an attack. He would also shortly after begin to analyze Regulus' fighting style and notes that he is even worse at fighting than the Three Stooges. They also cut out Elsa being in the house with Garf and Mimi, but they then added new Elsa scenes immediately afterwards, so The father of the household gives us his name in the novels, Garrett Thompson, but unless I missed it in this episode, just kind of skated past that, but it's also not that big of a deal. This isn't necessarily a cut, but a missed opportunity. If you're still somehow unaware, Al is also from Japan. In the anime continuity, this is a massive elephant in the room that is being left unaddressed. I was hoping it would be placed back in this episode because in the novels, Al initially reveals to Subaru about his state of being isekai'd when Subaru asks about how he lost his arm. There was an extremely clear layup here with the brief conversation between Subaru and Al, when Al says that Subaru almost ended up like him, being down a limb. The reason the novel community keeps talking about this without getting into spoiler territory is that the clock is ticking. There will eventually come a point where reintroducing this becomes a hassle and loses out on a lot of good foreshadowing points. We are going to slowly lose references and entire scenes if the anime keeps going the way it's going, and seemingly refusing to re-add Aldebaran, like the REM scene I speak about in another video. If you would like to know just how serious this is getting, make sure you check out my other cut content videos, where in one of them I speak at length about what was removed from Al's character. This episode actually added content with the Otto scene being later in this arc, but mostly off-screen, and as well as the prior mentioned Elsa scenes, so pretty good episode in terms of cut content, not much to complain about. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for more. You can also check the description down below to become a member, which gives you benefits like early videos, membership badges, and cool custom emotes. You can join the Discord where we talk about ReZero, Kagurabachi, Jujutsu Kaisen, and all kind of stuff. Additionally, you can go to the channel store and pick up some awesome stickers made by our channel artist, so you can carry the power of Grafia with you on your water bottle. That's about it though. Thank you for watching. See ya.